live already. So yeah, my name is Arthur. I'm the head of key accounts at Y1. Huge nerd since I was a little boy, working or growing up with an Amiga, and since then working in the tech business. My area of expertise is the complete point of customer interaction, customer journeys, conversion optimization, stuff like that. And I'm consulting our customers regarding everything within their infrastructure. Handing over to you.
Well, it's actually the same story at my side. I'm consulting customers. I do plenty of, let's say, business and commercial stuff, and my interests are also nerdy. I love fantasy, especially Dune. Recently, after watching the movie, I'm reading the books, and if you want to talk about it in Q&A, go ahead. But yeah, that's, I think, enough for the intro. Let's go further. So the part one of this presentation is going to be focused strictly on Celius introduction. And then in the second part, Arthur will take over and also talk about Sylius, but from the agency side. And obviously, Headless is one of the topics that we're going to rely to every time talking about the market overview and all other stuff. So Celius is the open source headless e-commerce platform for enterprise development teams. Quite a long slogan, but it's like it contains everything that we want to share and we want to tell you about during this presentation. But before we go, let's say a little bit about the context. So where are we from? We are from which, the third biggest city in Poland, and it's mainly built out of bricks. And we like to think we are building the new bricks like the previous factory owners, the textile factory owners did. We are building the bricks of modern world, of the IT e-commerce world. And remember about these bricks because they're gonna be important during the presentation. It's the like leitmotif. Yeah. And the history of Celius, it's not that young as you could think. I mean, the real business started in 2017 when the product company was launched. So for 5 years, we're really focused on building the ecosystem, the products, and everything that is in the heart of Celius. Before, from 2010, it was just the open source project, which means there was no business around it. Pavel started as a founder, just putting a few lines of code into GitHub, and magically this code started being used all over the world by people launching some really crazy stores that we will also share with you during this presentation. Anyway, it's important to remember that our origins are open source, and being 10 years in the Symphony ecosystem is something that really made the story. And right now, in 2021, it's really getting crazy. I need to brag a little bit for people that have not heard about Celius before. For you to understand, we're not just like 50 platform out there. I think we are in the top 10 platforms, or maybe 10 to 20 platforms in the world in terms of usage, especially thanks to the open source usage. We have just broken the 2,400 barrier in December, just like this week, I guess. And we're doubling year after year. And especially, I think, thanks to the COVID strike, which is obviously a dramatic thing for the world's economy, for e-commerce. On the contrary, paradoxally, it's really great. And we have been growing ever since very fast. We have the community of 4,600 developers on Slack. We've been the third biggest PHP e-commerce platform after Magento and WooCommerce in terms of GitHub stars. And all our packages were downloaded 11 millions of times. So not only Celius standard as the package for the basic platform, but all the other packages. And going to the meaty stuff, because how long we can speak about the context and the history. So where are we in this history of e-commerce industry? There's a lot of text, but in a nutshell, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, Arthur, because you've been here from the Amiga times. From our observations, e-commerce really started like 30 years ago, and it was in the tools like IBM, SAP, Oracle. Everything happened in this big, ugly ERP systems that contained every possible feature you can think of. I don't know what's your take from the Y1 perspective. You were using a lot of different platforms.
That's true. I'm absolutely with you. I think e-commerce started a lot longer before everybody else is thinking about it. For the most people, e-commerce is like, okay, I have a web shop.
Yeah.
But actually, the first real interactions with commerce and the digital channel have been before that. And I mean, it's no surprise. It's not a new information when I will say e-commerce is changing rapidly, and as it always did already, and it will be going this way. So I'm absolutely with you. We have to understand that it's always a transformation.
Do you remember your first online transaction? What you bought online?
Um, no, not really, but I can remember one of my very first touch points with internet was during a 56K modem, and I remember that my father was really surprised when he heard the sound, right? And he was like, "What is happening? Is it burning or something like that?" So yeah, my memory goes by far long
Yeah.
ago.
I don't even remember this time probably, and I must say I don't really do a lot of online shopping myself. It's probably because of my work. I spend too much on the backend side. So anyway, getting back to the history, after ERPs, there was a huge movement in let's say early 2000 something, starting with Shopware, PrestaShop, Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. The first decade of this millennium was popping up of new systems that are basically the let's say benchmarks, and they are like forever. Everybody knows them. Maybe if you are not in e-commerce, you probably have heard at least about WordPress to build a website for blog, and then you have this plugin which is WooCommerce, and you can suddenly make orders and collect money. So it transferred from ERP to CMS, and finally in the last decade that we joined in 2010-11, there was a huge movement towards modularity. So the internet was growing. There were more and more applications. The applications started to specialize in specific areas, and suddenly, not only big suits matter, but also the best of breed approach matter. So as we can see on the right on the modern architecture that Sylius supports, e-commerce is just one puzzle of the larger system. Obviously, right now we have microservices and a lot of other trends that are even more modern than, let's say, modular monolith than Celius is, but there is a solution for everyone on this market, and this is important to know where we are. So what's my take on the e-commerce platform? Of course, we can differ, we can discuss. Obviously, there is probably a lot of platforms missing here. I tried to put out of my head all the most popular ones that I am, let's say, at least touching upon when I'm talking to customers. It's in my daily work. I can see all around these platforms. So I decided to do this graph on two verticals. One is the SMB to enterprise. The other is open source to cloud. So as you could see, Celius doesn't have any software as a service or cloud proposition. I mean, you can use Celius on various hosting providers if you wish, but our open source origins and roots are so strong that we are right now targeting the niche of the, let's say, technical teams, in-house technical teams of big merchants that prefer to have a full control over the code, on-premise hosting, and don't be dependent on the big clouds corporates. On the other hand, this is the phenomenon that we cannot neglect. So the bottom right corner, these are the companies that are leading the enterprise segment, especially commerce tools recently with their microservices proposal to the market, and a lot of other players like Adobe that acquired Magento, Spryker in Germany, obviously, SAP, Hybris, Oracle, etc. On the left, we have Shopify, BigCommerce, and if you start a new online store, it would be probably Squarespace or Wix, but you would never use Headless if you have a Squarespace store. And this is why I'm talking about it, that Headless is not really a thing for small stores. And yeah, let's stop on this and let's try to get to it later on. And again, this is actually what I was referring to on the previous slide. If you see on the top of each list the last position and the second one and the third one, Celius is already used in the wide range from SMB to enterprise segment. We are not used and should not be used for starting your business. Sometimes it happens if there is a Symfony freelancer that loves our code and has to build a store, but there are so many easier ways to do it, like taking a Shopify subscription and clicking through your store yourself. What we are targeting, what the software we created is really made for, is the last segment, so the ferry segment, very complex one, a lot of bricks on this ferry, a lot of minor systems that create major systems, self-contained systems. It's really a lot of think about containers and bricks is in the modern architecture. And that's the situation for now, that 90% of current Celius users are in the SMB segment, and it could be perfectly used for SMB, but not always in the headless approach. And another strong advantage of Sylius, and where we really see ourselves, is the moment when somebody comes to you as, let's say you are watching me and Arthur right now, you are the merchant and you are a C-level merchant, you have to decide about the next software in your company. And you think that your business is totally unique because every merchant believes it. Like, my business is so custom and so tailored that there is no solution on the market. Probably there is a solution. If not one of the ready off-the-shelf solution that I showed you, there is Celius. Because really, we are just in between the full custom approach and CMS ready-to-use approach. So Celius gives you like 80% of most common features if you install the package, and the remaining 20% is up to your customization, integrations, plugins, and your own creation. And there are so many different approaches on how you could use Celius, which I will show you in a second, that it's not only for e-commerce. And we'd like to think that we create Celius as an engine to shape your uniqueness. So when choosing Celius, you should think that the more custom challenge you have, the better for Celius. If it's a simple store, go for Shopify. If it's a really huge enterprise store, but with a simple business logic, go for Adobe, for example. But if you have really custom checkout, if you have, I don't know, some API calls in checkout, if you have custom pricings in B2B, if you have some marketplace on that cannot be built on any other system, probably Celius is the thing. So again, why so Celius? Because if you could remember the previous slides, in the enterprise segment, we are the only alternative, the open source alternative to the huge cloud corporates. So I know that it's not very popular not to rely on a cloud nowadays, but there are still teams, technical teams, that want to have the full control over their code and their infrastructure. And then Celius is a perfect fit. So what else? This is, again, bricks. Sylius is teal or green, however you like it. And where is Headless? Headless is the front-end app. So this is these arrows that connect the backend and front-end. The front-end can be everything. It can be Vue.js, it can be React, Angular. There are multiple front-end frameworks. But Headless is also in the other applications that are being used together in one system. So content management, CRM, ERP, product information management, they all connect together via message queues. They have some product filtering on Elasticsearch, Fact Finder, which Arthur knows very well, or Algolia. Probably in a big store, you always have to have some filtering. And that's it. This is where Headless starts to matter. So in the bigger scale, where you have more than one application to handle your online business. And again, composability. This is what I told you multiple times already. Not only standard B2C commerce platform, but some strange custom logic, internal order management systems. This is what I saw being built on Sylius. No commerce content management system. For some reasons, people think that Sylius is a great stack to build any kind of business logic as long as it is custom. And you can also completely ditch UI, again, headless, and create your own and connect to the core bundle, which you can see in the middle. And yeah, sky is the limit. I talked a lot about the Symphony ecosystem that we rely on, and the thing is that we like to believe that we are the first and the best Symfony-based e-commerce technology. I mean, every platform is trying to say, I am the best at something. I am the first on the market, right? But we brainstormed a lot about the values, and I think we can honestly say that being 10 years in the Symfony ecosystem gave us the privilege to be very close to this framework core team and the entire community, especially in France, where Symfony originated in. So for you to know, for people that are not technical, Symfony is one of the two biggest PHP frameworks for building web applications. And PHP is the language that is used commonly in like most of the web. So if you want to build something fast, you take this framework, you add Sylius as another layer. So we take all the Symfony bundles that are e-commerce, and we provide you with technological stack and methodologies to build any kind of e-commerce system. So we like to say that you should trust your Symfony developer to save euros, to save money, because actually, if we compare to the market average in the enterprise segment, the licenses could be very, very pricey of some players that were already mentioned. And well, you have to try out yourself and compare the costs. But even with hosting that is not provided by us, but some third party, the project development in the enterprise segment for the company that earns more than 100 millions of euros, it's really easy to maintain, integrate, recruit a team, especially if you want to build your in-house team. Symfony developer is far more achievable than Magento developer or Shopify developer. So you don't have to have a PhD in Celius to actually use our technology, because it's 100% the same Symfony code. And there is a lot of technical arguments in this presentation, because Celius is still a technical solution. Our favorite buyer persona is a tech leader, a CTO, because this is somebody, a profile that really feels the power of code and why it's easier to take a Symfony quality code than rely on some cloud solution. And I love this quotation because it really says the true value of Sylius, that developer come with a banana and ask what is the next project. A common developer in any agency or a company is usually frustrated that they have to work with platforms they don't like. And I'm not saying they are not good from business, but developers love quality code. And this is what Celius provides. And that translates into reliability, obviously. So what are the headless brands that trusted their Symfony tech leads? So you probably know some of these logotypes. Forbes, Dr. Edgar, for example, they don't have to be introduced. And in every scenario, every of this brand is in this 5%, you remember from the another slide, in the enterprise segment, when headless was a thing, but Symfony backend on Celius was another thing to introduce. And it's actually the core of the system. The stable Symfony-based backend that could be connected to any external application, any microservice, and any front-end framework or PWA like Vue Storefront, DT, Front Commerce, I don't know, Bloomreach, whatever you need. But you have to have a stable backend engine that could be easily customized and easily maintained and developed in the future. And these brands, they trusted Celius. Finally, the last slide, what is the future? How are we pursuing into headless era? Because if we evaluate the market honestly, there are players that are much more headless than we are. Like there are platforms that were invented in the headless era. We were on the verge of two eras, so the classic and headless one. Celius is right now a modular monolith, so it means that it's still one application with one logic and one UI. Of course, you can synchronize it and connect it to other systems, and you can choose whether you have a headless frontend with one of the frontend frameworks that I already mentioned, or you have a classical frontend with Symfony technology, for example, Twig, which is a templating system for Symfony. Right now, you can choose. Our goal in the future is to obviously keep on developing the branch 1.x, We just have the release in January, so in 1 month. So be prepared for the new release with catalog promotion system. Then probably 1.12 with Symfony 6 support, which just was released. We are always in the race with shopware friends that I'm greeting cheerfully because somebody has to be first to support Symfony, the newest editions. And it's good that we kind of have this competition because it's good for the ecosystem. We are trying to keep up with the trends. Probably in 2025 or later, we would have to say this is the end of the era. Who knows how many merchants will still use the classical frontends by this time. The thing is that headless is a trend, but it's not a norm yet. So just to make it like a firm statement from the vendor perspective, we're not letting anyone behind. We know that there are a lot of projects still. There are 95% of projects that are not necessarily headless or are only partially headless. So if you are starting a new project today, then we would advise to make it headless, especially in the mid-market and upper market. If you are building a small store, it could still be a traditional one, or just go for software as a service like Shopify. But yeah, there will be a moment when we are observing the market all the time, and we will have to decide one day what to do next about the support of the various branches of Sylius, because 2.0 branch already started with our effort 1 year ago. We're integrating with API platform, one of the, actually not one, but the most used and most praised API solution in the Symfony ecosystem. So we already started investing a lot in APIs. Consciously, we started the movement towards the new headless era, but it's not even in the alpha stage yet. So we have to kind of announce it, we have to battle test it, and we have to add a lot of other features, especially like front-end software development kits, etc. Because Celius right now is only a backend engine with powerful APIs, obviously, and growing. And finally, the branch 3.0 that is just in the conceptualizing phase. I cannot tell you anything about it. It's a secret, and I think one day our founder Pavel will do a webinar about it. But we are thinking about building our own trend, because why not? I mean, there are so many solutions on the market that we can provide something totally different. So I think that's it of my part. Introduction to Celius, the market overview, what is headless from our perspective, and I'll gladly hand over to Arthur. If you have any questions, then we will answer after Arthur's presentation during the Q&A section.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Quite interesting. And I absolutely agree with you. As you might have seen, I was always like moving my head, because a lot of stories and a lot of examples you just mentioned, I heard them myself. Especially
I should have asked more questions to you, but maybe let's leave it on the finish of the presentation.
That's absolutely fine. So yeah, let me take over from this point. Maybe just a very short introduction to the Y1. Who are we? What are we doing? We are an agency based in Germany with a couple of locations, which you can see on the bottom. We're especially working when it comes to the complete strategy and concept part, with a huge UX and UI focus. And of course, we're doing the development behind it. We also offer operations for a couple of our customers. And actually, we're working in every industry, but most of our customers are within the fashion industry or B2B industries. Especially when it comes to technology. And this is who we are, what we do for more than 20 years already. So we're working with Sylius, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be in this webinar.
Cannot be.
We do have the experience with other tools as well, as you can see here. So I will try to give an introduction out of my daily work and out of the consulting processes we have been through during the last couple of months, especially. And maybe I will get back to that in a minute, but I had a good laughter when Tim, when you said, well, 95% of people maybe don't even need headless. And that's something I totally agree with.
But isn't it like with all the trends, like microservices? Yeah, nobody needs microservices. Only the biggest players on the market, like 1% of the market.
Of course, because people love working with buzzwords, and
Yes.
it's not a new trend, right? I can remember when I was on an exhibition when this whole big data came up, and everybody was like, "I need big data." Well, I have 200 products and 500 customers, but I need big data. No, you don't, and not everybody needs AI or AR or whatsoever. It always depends on your case, and it's in my opinion, it's the same with Headless. Of course, it's a trend. Of course, everybody's talking about it, but there's something I really don't love to hear when I'm going to a new customer pitch and we're talking about, okay, so what's your approach? What do you need? Who are your customers? What is your goal to go to? And I said, we need Headless. Okay, why? And then
Because
it's
it's
just
trendy.
quiet.
It's
Yeah, because
trendy.
it's trendy. And see, I think if you're honest with your customers, you need to provide them the best solution for their specific case. And Headless is not for everybody, but we should talk about when do we recommend it? Like, what is the usual use case when we come up and say, hey, listen, in our opinion, headless will be something that you need to think about, and let's paint up the picture where we could go together. And I'm absolutely totally with you. I liked your example with the ship. Um, totally agree, 100% agree. Shops that are already operated with a huge architecture and which are very future perspective driven, and they already know, okay, I'm reaching my limits, right? I want to have them best of breed. I want to have the possibility to maybe even change specific bricks within my ecosystem, and always decide, not thinking about, okay, if I change a little screw, my whole construct will fall apart and I will have a huge new monolithic project. So we do recommend it usually for everybody who needs the flexibility, who has a bigger business, who has a lot of information, a lot of attributes, a lot of data, a lot of products, a lot of different tools to make this really happen, to say, I'm best of breed, especially when it comes to software, which are helping you with different parts of the customer journey. Let me take a simple example. When I'm talking to customers, there are usually, especially when it comes to software, which is increasing conversion rates, there are usually just two approaches. You either have the one approach who says, I need everything out of one company. I need on-site search, recommendations, personalizations, filtering and navigations. For example, like Fact Finder, I need everything in one tool, because
Yeah.
the people who are using it are usually marketing managers, for example. And you have the
Mhm.
complete different approach, where you have the people, especially CTOs, as you mentioned, who say, hey, I need the best personalization software. I need
Mhm.
the best recommendation software. I need a huge analytics. Google Analytics is nothing for me. I need a really data driven focus. And I need A, B, C, D, and E. So when you're the type of person who's loving approach number B, then headless is a choice. Then we can really like
And I
think
think
about
it's
possibilities.
important to say that we are not neglecting or denying any of these approaches. Like,
Yeah.
you can go for a big suite hosted on one cloud with all the features included. Why not? But
Yeah.
if
I'm
you want to play
totally.
with different tools, why not?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's when we want to break it down to a simple example, I will not judge you when you say, I need a specific car to come from A to B. Right? You can drive with an SUV. If you're going off track, you can take a Jeep. But if you say, hey, it's a direct course which I want to drive and I need to be fast, well, then you take a Ferrari. Right? It's still a car with four wheels, a steering wheel, and you get from A to B. So it depends on your specific route which you want to take from A to B. Maybe it's the direct line on the Autobahn. Maybe it's off road. Maybe it's through tunnels and you just want to hear the VH sound. Maybe it's electrical because you want to be economic friendly and you don't have a gas station on the way. Depends on the case, right? So that's absolutely fine.
Every good consultant says it. It depends.
It depends.
It depends.
Depends.
Every case is unique. That's why you have to engage us to help you to decide.
Absolutely true. And when we're talking about, okay, who do we recommend it to, we have to talk about who do we not recommend it to. And you already said it, Tim. You already said, okay, listen, if you're a small business starting, headless might not be your approach. And I totally agree. Maybe if you're a startup which is funded by hundreds of millions of bucks behind you, and you say, okay, I have the goal to get within 1 year, want to make 100 million euros with my web shop, maybe Okay.
I confirm. We call it the enterprise startup. So the
Yeah, the
startup,
enterprise startups.
yeah, of a huge corporation that decides to launch a new business. Then, okay, let's start with headless and very complex architectures because the scale is big from day one. But it's very rarely like this.
It's very rarely, and especially this is what science point number 2 on this slide. Usually, those enterprise startups do have data, right? They already made a huge market analysis, and they're coming up with a specific solution to the problems which they got out of the data. If you don't have any analysis of your market, of your customers, of whatever you maybe need to rearrange your strategy, as you already said, pick a Shopify, go for it. Be happy, do your first steps in the e-commerce business, and then we can talk in a couple of years actually about headless, maybe, right?
And
But
I'm not getting any commissions. I have recommended Shopify many times already to our customers. Believe me, really, because
I
it's
don't
better.
get any commissions too, unfortunately.
Because it's really better to point to the system that will do the job than push for your system because it's yours.
Exactly.
It never really brings any good in the long term
No,
vision.
be honest.
Yeah.
Usually those people are thankful, if you're honest, and you know, I really believe in karma. I think everybody gets to see each other again sometimes in their life, and it's always good when you're just honest with that. And well, regarding the topic, especially one question is often asked when we're during our consulting approach and evaluating the possible solutions. Um, Usually, I get to hear, so what's the difference for you as an agency? And I think that's especially for the viewers today also very very interesting, because not only it's a complete different approach from a technology client side, it's also different for us. Um, when you would say, okay, do you have any specific challenges when talking about headless? Yes, of course. Our complete process flow when we're talking about headless is different. Why? Because it's much more complicated at the end of the day, because you're doing a lot of more of investigation and thinking, and it's like it's like painting, doing a painting. When you get to the monolithic, you usually know exactly, okay, I'm also drawing a house. I have my simple lines, I have a roof, I need some windows, stuff like that. The headless approach is completely different. We're not even sure, not only what colors do we use, we're not even sure what object are we drawing from the beginning on. So you need to evaluate it during the process. So it always starts with a huge consulting process, right? Selection of possible tools, of possible use cases out of data, where we do a lot of audits with our customers, especially. It's like sitting down and asking them hundreds of questions to get a feeling of the situation, of the actual situation, the problems during the situation, where we want to get to. Only after this consulting approach, we can go into merging systems, like especially when they're old systems, old data, and believe me, if you're completely monolithic and you will say, okay, I'm switching to completely headless from now on, it's not changing a shop system, right? It's a complete mind set change, and you will have a lot of work merging system and data and
I
rearranging.
must say, sorry to interrupt, but I must say that we have a lot of respect at Celius for agencies, system integrators, because we have just this one brick of
Mhm.
many other bricks that you have to integrate together and migrate from legacy systems. And what just came to my mind is a good example of using headless when you have a monolithic legacy software and you have to switch to a new platform, but you don't want to lose the front end. And then you implement a new front end, for example, with Vue Storefront, like a modern PWA application, and you just switch the backends when the API coverage, endpoints, everything is ready for the switch. It's not that easy as I described, but it's in a nutshell, it's quite popular usage of headless approach.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So just please keep that in mind. If you're a viewer right now and you're thinking about switching to headless, um, please be aware that you really need to think about a lot of stuff before even doing the first line of code, before even deciding what kind of specifics you will need. I always like um, to make up an example. If you always had to do all the work in your house, okay, something is breaking down in your house. If all you have is a hammer, you will find a solution to use the hammer to solve this problem. But now you're coming up with a suitcase of different tools, which give you a lot of different possibilities. And often it's easier to use a specific tool than just a hammer, but you have to use a mind change behind it. So after merging the systems, we will then actually go into the most detailed part. It's about the fine tuning. It's about having a look to where does the data come from, where does it have to go through, how many systems are there, what kind of data is in which system actually, and why should it be in this specific system and on the headless approach. So it's it's a bigger project, but I really like it, and I'm absolutely with you. I think that within the next 5 to 6 years, we will see a huge increase in companies which are completely relying on headless.
What is your projection? I'd say from 5 to 25% within 3 years. But still, we cannot really forget about the classical, let's say,
Yeah.
web, because it
Yes.
will be with us for long. It's really not that easy to switch. There are a lot of very, let's say, archaic companies that are just coming into digital. So yeah, there is still a lot of education.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think we need to separate the markets there. I think that within the enterprise section, you will have more than 50%.
Yes.
But of course, within the small businesses, it's just not necessarily there. But usually, as technology adapts, and when I'm looking at the last, I mean, I'm working for 15 years in the e-commerce market right now, right? So when I think about my first steps there in the beginning, and it was about logistics, that this was e-commerce already, just like doing the shipments within an interface. It was completely crazy. It was something completely new without sending a fax. So when I look at this time, usually technology adapts. And this is why I would even say that even simple products for the first steps within e-commerce will have a more open approach. I don't want to call it headless, definitely not, but it will not be 100% monolithical anymore. So you will still be more API driven, in my opinion. Like maybe have a half monolithic systems, but with a lot of open APIs. So this is where it will move to, in my opinion. So what is the impact during this complete process for an agency? When you've been doing the first steps, no matter how hard they have been, how much consulting you had to do within that, at the end of the day, I think it's resource saving, because you will have that much more possibilities, and in the long term, you will not have to invest a lot of time to modify an old monolithic system so it will barely work with ideas you will have and new trends you will see. A lot of modification which you have to invest is huge for a very specific thing you want to achieve. So there it's time saving actually in the long game, and especially the possibilities are cool. So let me make the following example. You have a huge headless infrastructure, a lot of good tools, best of breed. You're doing a lot of interesting stuff. And now a new company comes up with a cool idea, which will 100% fit into your ecosystem, and you want to have it for your customers. Within a headless system, it's easy. You can just say, okay, let's do it. Let's try it out. In a lot of old systems, you will now get into discussion how to make this happen, how to enable it, what do you need. You will well, it's a lot more complicated, let's be honest there. So this is the approach which I really like.
I even can share with you that we tend to say on the, let's say, tenders or advisory calls that headless gives you a chance to even replace Sylius. If you buy our software, we are happy. Obviously, you are our customer, but let's be honest. Maybe in 3 years, 5 years, you will not like us anymore. And for you as a merchant, it's the argument that you are not dependent on just one provider. You can easily change these bricks, and that's what you said. And I think headless is pricey at the beginning because you have to invest in separation of front end and back end and multiple applications. But in the long term, you feel more safe and reliable because you can simply switch the blocks you don't need or don't like anymore.
Totally agree. I absolutely agree. And at the end of the day, it even puts pressure on you guys a lot more because you have to keep up with the pace. And that's something I
Exactly.
love because
Yeah.
when companies have to keep up with the pace and they're not like the old company which is just still breathing because it has been breathing for 50 years, um, it's a lot more interesting for agencies like us, right? Because you can always work with absolutely the best of the best technologies because everybody's keeping up the pace. So it brings
We love it.
possibilities for merchants and agencies.
Yeah. It's a healthy competition, simply. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just a short roundup again. So as soon as you want to think about best of breed, as you want to have all the possibilities to modificate stuff to make the best customer experience for each and every specific customer, and this is something we also have to talk about, Tim, in my opinion, the possibilities to address each and every customer as a person, right? Not only saying, well, this is my shop, and 100,000 people each month can see the exactly same stuff because it's the same stuff. This gives us possibilities and opportunities, and I think at the end of the day, you will absolutely see it in each and every relevant KPI when talking about ecom. You will see it in conversion rates. You will see it in exit rates, which will be dropping. You will see it in average time on the website. You will see all these main KPIs, which everybody is tracking. Definitely will have a huge impact on that. So, if you guys have any questions regarding our daily business with Headless consulting approaches, feel free to ask. As Tim already said, we will come back to the questions in a couple of minutes. And maybe just as a final roundup in this presentation, so you will not only get the theoretical know-how, which we are Tim and me are talking, and doing a little bit of
Talking
exercise.
heads. Yeah.
Yeah, talking it. We want to talk about a specific case, which is Dysart, a German company. For Dysart, there has been a joint project from Sylius and our guys, and I just want to introduce you into this project, what happened there, why it happened, and how it happened actually. It might be interesting for you guys to get a better feeling. So, who is Dysart? Dysart is a German company which are working in the sensor business, right? They're doing a couple of different sensoric products for processing, identifying, for safety. So you can find a bunch of products on their website with very specific attributes for very specific cases whenever it comes to sensors. And it's a huge B2B player here. They have a couple of cross industry products as well. So it's within Dysart, you can get a lot of products when you're talking about industry standards, and you have specific cases in logistics or in building up other products. So this Dysart is a big player, and they're quite interesting. It was a very interesting case from our side because we said, okay, how do we want to do it like really headless? And we did it actually, of course, obviously with Celius as a headless shop system. We had the interface to the ERP, which was cloud based with Celius, and we used Via Medici as an PIM system. Sorry, there's a typo. It's not an ERP with Via Medici. It was a PIM system, state of the art, and we made at the end of the day a lot of connectors. Let me call it like that, interfaces. um, we love to talk about the any to any connector because this is what headless is all about. So PIM to shop, shop to PIM, PIM to ERP, ERP to shop, and everybody is talking with everything, and it was quite a challenge, but we had a lot of great feedback regarding this approach. Why? Because you could simply identify where is which data in this project, and who is the head of headless for which data at the end of the day. So for example, when it came to stock and prices, it came out of the ERP. When it came to thousands and thousands attributes, because they have such a huge amount of products and the attributes are not the same at all, as you might think of in sensors, we could definitely define, okay, it's coming from Via Medici. You have those attributes here, you have those information there. The shop is only like doing the conversion itself, giving those informations back, triggering the complete shipment. So it was a pretty cool approach with Dysart. Check out the webpage if you have any more questions. Ask me. I will be glad to answer a lot of questions, because it was a huge project, and it's of course pretty hard to talk about it in just 2 minutes. But for you to get to get a feeling, I think this already helps us out. So I tracked it down here a bit again. So we had the ERP to PIM, PIM to ERP, ERP to shop, shop to ERP, headless approach here, and yeah, at the end of the day, Sylius got the shopping cart and worked
It's
with it.
and we are totally not afraid to state it firmly that Celius is great as a headless checkout, and that's it. I mean, it's only checkout, and also wow, checkout. I mean, it's the place where all the transactions flow. Your orders are collected, the money flows through checkout. So it's one of the key puzzles of the system. But yeah, we're just a puzzle and a puzzle in the same time, and it's as important as every other. So yeah, absolutely, it's a good example of how headless Celius could be used.
Definitely. So before we get to the questions, I can see that we already got a couple of questions from the viewers. Maybe to break it down, just 3 simple questions for you, Tim, from my side, because I think those questions always come up. So we already talked about it, but just one sentence: is headless a trend, or is it state of the art in future e-commerce for you?
So it's like we're totally not prepared with these questions, and we haven't covered that yet. But yes, I can just repeat. It is the future of e-commerce, definitely in the upper segment. It's already happening for a few years. Before we even know what is headless, Celius already had APIs, and they were just appreciated and they were used. The first projects were launched before we even understood the trend, and they were already headless. So ditching the traditional tweak templating system from Symphony and using the headless with some front-end framework before even PWA was a trend, before View Storefront existed. People already built online stores with headless Celius 3 or 4 years ago. So we noticed the trend back then, and we had to mature to understand its robustness, and yeah, it's a trend. And just to repeat, I would think twice if you are a small store if you really need headless. If you're a big one, definitely advised. And my take is, in the upper segment, it will be more than 50% of e-commerce within the 3 to 5 years. In the lower segment, maybe 20-25% of all e-commerce stores. But it's just, the from the top of my head. It's not a statistic data. Yeah, there are other trends like marketplaces, like no code approach, for example. Who knows? Maybe in 3 years, Y1 will have to become a partner of some no-code commerce from the Silicon Valley, and the developers will no longer be needed, just very fast configurators of this no-code bricks. We can't really envision everything.
So maybe those are the new possibilities for you and me. No coding, and then just clicking.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to learn how to code finally, because, to understand what I'm talking about. I have a good high level overview, but I have never written any PHP code line. But yeah, apparently it's not that necessary to be a good advisor, and even a good architect sometimes is said that maybe not necessarily they should know about how to code everything to have the high level vision. So yeah, the future is now, and the future is really hard to tell. There are Gartner research, or any other Forrester research or PwC or Deloitte research that will tell you that no commerce, cloud, and marketplaces are trending, and this is true in the upper segment. The smaller segment is still, I think, from my point of view, Shopify, BigCommerce, and the huge software as a service systems from North America, they will fight hard with players like Shopware, PrestaShop, WooCommerce, And even Sylius can lose a little bit of our small segment customers due to the fact that they will start, or they have already started, switching to something more easy to configure without having a developer. So I think software as a service will win the market up to 5 million of revenues. So startup market, small businesses, they will be totally won for the next few years by software as a service approach.
Okay. Regarding question number 2, maybe I can answer it quite fast. Let me give you the typical consulting answer, as we already had. How much time do I need to invest in changing the architecture? It depends. Because it really does. It depends. So if you have a project where you will say, hey, I want to know, let us talk, because no project is like the other, and it will just not be professional to come up with the answer. Well, it takes you 3 months. No, that's crap. We need to have a deeper look. And last but not least, regarding the FAQs, which impact is Headless having on my current ecom marketing team? What is your opinion, Tim?
Well, I think it's undeniable impact, because to put it in simple words, you can give your marketing team as a stakeholder any software they like. You don't have to keep them in part of some suite which, I don't know, kind of force them to use a specific mailing tool. So you can, for the marketing team, SEO optimization, easier caching with Headless, performance, obviously everything that marketing likes, but also the leverage of the tooling that they choose themselves. And this should be for any team. Like content management system can also be Headless. And it's advisable to have a separate CMS from Sylius, because Sylius doesn't even contain content features. So if we speak about content marketing managers, they can have a wonderful tool like, for example, Contentful or Strapi or Prismic or Sulu. There are plenty of, or Storyblock. There are plenty of CMSs. Same with mailing tools. Same with marketing automation tools. So we are not even trying to solve these problems. So I'd say Headless is beautiful because we can say we keep on not providing these features because we just integrate with others that provide them. Yeah. And that's our job, to be best of breed in a specific category. We are not marketing automation tool. We are just e-commerce platform. Okay, we have less than 10 minutes and a lot of questions. I think for starters, I should have said already that welcome everyone and thank you for being with us. A lot of hellos and greetings from the community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We haven't seen the chat when talking, so that's why we are reacting right now. But going from the top, I think the first question was to me, what about user rights inside admin? Man, welcome to the community, because probably you haven't seen all the plugins that we have yet. There is an access control layer plugin that you can buy in our store with plugins. And that's it. You can also customize it. There is an airbag plugin, and also there is a control layer in the Celius Plus, so the premium version of our software. So user rights inside admin are already there and will remain. That's the answer. Another question. Sander Mangel. Oh, hi, Sander. You're quite a persona in the e-commerce community. Good to see you here. Any ideas on what front-end stack you'd like to include, or will you rely on existing options out there? Well, I can tell you that internally we are in favor of Vue. The new integration with Vue Storefront 2 is already finished, and it's just waiting for the final announcement. We're preparing the communication around it. So for the big players, this integration could be a way to go. But meanwhile, hopefully in 2022, 2023, we will be able to build our own software development kits and maybe even our own PWA on Vue.js. But it's not yet set in stone, but rather in favor of Vue. Nicola Lazaro, sorry for the off topic. It would be interesting to update the documentation. Always community. Yes, we are not bug-free software. We have problems as every software has. If somebody tells you on the sales pitch that his or her software is like limitless, bugless, they are lying. So yes, there are some missing parts in the docs. If you can, please open the pull requests and suggest the changes, because I will not write it for now. I can only report it to our team. But hello, Nicola. I think you are also new to the community, so welcome. Paulius, earlier in the presentation, you mentioned that there is a very early version of Celius version 2 in development. Where can I find code for it? Is Celius repository? I could not find branch for it. Very good question. Thank you for cautious and alertness, participating. There is no such branch yet distracted from the one and only branch we have. So I just showed you the idea for next year, because right now we all have everything in one repository, but the idea is to separate branches in the future. So right now, what is the, let's say, pre-alpha version of the second branch is actually the API platform APIs. So that's really it. Victor, we will pretty much be using Sylius as headless checkout. Any do's and don'ts? Maybe you want to say something here, Arthur? Any don'ts?
Good question. At the end of the day, in my personal opinion, do it. That's always a good first step to accept and have the idea to do it. I'm absolutely with you. You already saw our Dysart case. Works out pretty fine. Do's and don'ts quite hard to tell from a very high perspective. In my opinion, have a plan. That's the most important stuff. So don't only look at Celius at a headless checkout, but also have a clear view of the complete infrastructure and what it means for you. Like, what do I have to plan? How much time do I need to invest? Where will it be? Which data? So as soon as you have this plan, that's actually, in my opinion, already the point where you can start going and start walking.
And again, I think, because what really means headless checkout, it's just another brick that communicates with specific pieces of your software, and the real devil is in the details. So I mean, very important details. So will the orders be sent to ERP, or will you keep them in some order management system, or maybe they will go to Sylius? So headless checkout is one thing, but to which other brick it will talk is another thing. So the question is what ERP system you are using, how does your order flow looks like, what payment solutions do you have, does it support the headless approach, because not every plugin in our ecosystem is yet ready for headless. That's also important. So I will be happy to advise. Just drop us a message via the contact form, because it's too much to say on this webinar. Yeah, but if you could share what is the project, Victor. Every new headless project is very interesting for us. Remember, we are open source, so we don't see every new installation from the name, because we don't host Celius. We don't know every new instance that is being made on Celius. So we have to collect the data from the web, from the conversations, and from tracking tools. Is Dysart using the new API? Do you know it?
Complicated. Complicated answer. It's a mix, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's complicated. So it's if I had to decide, it's the old one, but we already have parts of the new one, and it's a very specific case. So yeah, complicated.
I think the project started when our new API was unstable. So most often scenario is that you use a REST API for the backend connections to ERP, CMS, PIMS, and the new API for the front-end connection. So that might be the case as well. Ahmed Khaled, hello team. Hello, Ahmed. Do you think conversational commerce is the upcoming new trend? Can you share your thoughts on this topic? Conversational commerce. I don't know. Maybe it will not be wise to say, but honestly, I haven't heard about this. Is it like is it a social commerce? Or is it what do you exactly mean? conversational, like via conversations. Maybe this is what Facebook is doing with their Meta VR and AR mix, that you will have glasses on your eyes and you will buy when talking to a sales representative who will advise you on what other thing to buy to your home. Yeah, it could be a thing, but it's what we said with Arthur. It's 1% or even more, even less than 1% of the web. Who is using AI these days? I mean, AI is Matrix. Let's go to the new Matrix movie in a week. Okay. Hugo Prader, can you tell us how reliable Sylius is to develop a marketplace using external plugins? I think we are already over time, but I think we can answer these questions unless you don't have to go, Arthur. I would stay a few minutes more with our ecosystem.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Thank you for being here and thank you for asking all these questions. So, is it a reliable platform as Celius and with our plugins? There is a multi-vendor marketplace plugin made by our Argentinian partner Odiseo, and it's a good base for, let's say, a basic marketplace functionality. But all the biggest marketplaces that are under development or already launched with Sylius, they are totally custom. So as I said, it's a framework, but not full custom, just in the middle between full custom and CMS approach. So you can take our bundles, you can customize them, you can build vendor logic, you can even, what people do? I mean, the one of the newest projects we have, they are connecting Sylius as a headless checkout to Miracle. And Miracle is one of the top marketplace platforms out there. They have clients like Carrefour, all the biggest players. But they provide the backend logistic order management flow thing, but they do not provide the retail part and the checkout processing part. So if you are a representative of a big player, you can go for a Miracle license for 300k euro and then connect Celius Headless Checkout for 50k. But it's really a huge project. But if you have a small project, go with our plugin from Odiseo. Really, it should do the work. Thanks, hello, thanks. Big fan of Sylius. Thank you, Sander. Thanks to you, it was very interesting. One question, has the Symphony bundle Sulu CMS already been plugged on some instance than Sylius? Yeah, actually, we had this conversation yesterday or 2 days ago. If you go to our community on Slack, you have 4,600 developers there, and on the general channel, there is the discussion about headless CMSs that connect well to Sylius. So you have NetGen layouts that work well with Ibexa, so the old Easy platform, but you have also Sulu, and there are at least 4 implementations of Sulu and Sylius that I know, and I even tagged people that implemented, so you can discuss with them on the chat. I cannot name the stores. Probably I can name one, but I'm not sure. So I prefer not to name anyone. It's the problem of the enterprise segment. You cannot talk about anybody. So that's why I'm so thankful to Dysart that they agreed to share. And thank you for our partner Infolox and Alexander that we have this example, because it's so difficult to get examples. Everybody.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you. Give me your NDA. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think people are so much afraid about competition and hackers, but guys, it doesn't work like this. You can share. Always a fan of Vue. Yeah, we were too. I think Vue did the same as Symphony, but in the front-end ecosystem. So our take on the market is that Vue and Symphony did the best job, both in the backend and front-end. And if we connect these 2 bubbles, we can have like even wider range, and we can achieve. We can reach with Sylius to people that would have never used us before, thanks to being in the Vue ecosystem. Thank you for your time. Looking for long-term headless project. I'm not familiar with Symphony, but everything is well organized and good quality. Thank you. Vue.js seems to be a good choice. Why thinking about developing of your own Vue.js storefront and not simply rely completely on Vue storefront? I don't know. It's that's why it's so tricky to speak about future plans. The first step is rely on this integration for the big enterprises. However, some of these enterprises do not like any PWA. They prefer to build their custom front-end on Vue or on React or on Angular, just because they are so unique. And I have never worked at the merchant side on such a big scale. We are speaking about merchants that are doing $500 million of euros every year, or even billions. So I am not really the one to say what are the choices of the merchants. I am the one to say that we as a platform have to remain as agnostic as possible. So we have to have a great APIs. We have to have great software development kits for any JavaScript-based framework, and that's it. And the choice is yours. If you choose Angular, go with Angular, even if it's the oldest of all the front-end frameworks we have. Okay. Are there any plans to integrate Symfony UX Turbo into current Twig-based storefront? Well, we had this on the plate, but no decision was made. You can be sure that we are like very well notified about every new Symfony thing, but well, we are not capable of introducing everything, so I cannot answer firmly on this. Possibility to talk about chatbots. Victor, really? Guys, I think we have to finish. You have wonderful questions. Conversational commerce will be huge in 10 years, Patrick says, from Y1, your colleague. Okay.
Yeah, I already see that Ahmed has specified it, and Ahmed, it's a cool topic which will completely break our time possibilities here. But if you're interested, have a short chat with me. We have customers who are using it, so I can give you a couple of insights. Add me on LinkedIn. Let's have a chat.
Yeah, guys, and I could be talking for hours. I think that we have to launch like a repeatable community update. You know, grab some beer and just talk to each other, because there is a huge community out there and a very good vibe, which I love about Celius. And this is why we love Symfony as well, because we just originated from even bigger ecosystem. And let's keep up this good vibe, and let's switch to Celius.com/Slack. If you are not on our Slack yet, this is how you're gonna get the invite link. And well, I think it's time to say goodbye. It was a pleasure, Arthur. I love your collections. Again, what was it? These figurines?
Funko Pops.
Funko Pops. Yes.
Check it out, Funko Pops.
Yeah, and I guess you're gonna watch the new Matrix if you are a geek as we are.
Of course.
Of course.
No question on that. I already saw the Matrix in Unreal Engine 5 as a tech thing, so I'm absolutely with you.
So I guess we have to go to futuristic movies to guess what is next in e-commerce as well. So we're gonna do our job there. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.
See you around.